On the evening of what should have been a routine business dinner, I sat across from my husband of 25 years, smiling politely at our Korean client as they chatted in rapid Korean. I pretended not to understand a word, sipping my wine like the oblivious wife I was supposed to be. But then I heard Robert, my Robert, lean in and whisper something so chilling it made my blood run cold. Once she's out of the picture, the money's all ours. We'll make it look like an accident. My fork froze mid-air, the room spinning around me. But no one at that table knew the secret I'd kept hidden for years, or the storm that was about to unleash. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Before I dive into this story, I'd love to know, have you ever had a moment where one overheard conversation shattered everything you thought you knew? Drop a yes in the comments if you have. Your stories mean the world to me. Now let me take you back to that night. My name is Vicky Wilson, a 52-year-old woman from the suburbs of Chicago, with laugh lines from years of forcing smiles through the tough times and gray streaks in my auburn hair that I've earned the hard way. If you've ever poured your heart and soul into a marriage, sacrificing your dreams for someone who promised forever, only to feel that nagging doubt creep in like a shadow, this story is for you. I've spent my life being the rock for everyone else. My husband, our kids, even strangers in need. But looking back, I realize I was building a castle on sand, and one whispered conversation washed it all away. Let me start from the beginning, because to understand the betrayal that nearly destroyed me, you need to know how deeply I trusted Robert. We met in college, back in the late 90s, when life felt full of promise. I was studying graphic design, dreaming of opening my own studio someday, but Robert, he was the ambitious one, majoring in international business with stars in his eyes. He swept me off my feet with his charm, those deep blue eyes that crinkled when he laughed, and promises of a life where we'd conquer the world together. Vicky, he'd say, holding my hand under the stars on campus, with you by my side, there's nothing we can't do. We got married right after graduation, in a small ceremony with just family and a few friends. I remember the way my white dress swished against the wooden floor of that old church, the scent of lilies filling the air, and Robert's vows. I'll protect you, cherish you, and build a future where you never have to worry. I believed him. God, did I believe him? I put my dreams on hold to support his career. He landed a job at a mid-sized import-export firm, traveling the world while I managed the home front. We had 2 beautiful children, Emily, now 24 and working as a teacher in New York, and Michael, 22, finishing his engineering degree in California. They were my everything, the light in my days when Robert's absences stretched longer and longer. For 25 years, I was the quintessential supportive wife. I handled the bills, the PTA meetings, the endless doctor's appointments when the kids were little. Robert climbed the corporate ladder, eventually starting his own consulting firm specializing in Asian markets. Korea became his second home. He'd fly there every few months, negotiating deals with tech suppliers and manufacturers. It's all for us, Vicky, he'd say, kissing my forehead before boarding another flight. One day, we'll retire to that beach house we've always talked about. I'd nod, ignoring the loneliness that gnawed at me during those weeks alone, the way the house echoed without him. But lately something felt off. It started small, like cracks in a foundation you don't notice until the walls start leaning. Robert had always been affectionate, but over the past year, his touches grew rarer, his eyes distant. He'd come home from trips exhausted, snapping at little things, like the way I folded his shirts or the dinner I cooked. "Can't you just leave it alone, Vicky?" he'd grumble, retreating to his home office with a glass of scotch. I chalked it up to stress. Business was booming after all. His firm had landed a major contract with a Seoul-based electronics giant, and he was pulling in more money than ever. Our savings account swelled, and he even surprised me with a new car last Christmas, a sleek SUV that I didn't really need but accepted with a grateful smile. Yet, the red flags piled up, subtle at first. He'd forget anniversaries like our 25th last spring, brushing it off with a hurried bouquet of roses from the airport gift shop. His phone became a fortress, password protected and always face down on the table. Once, when it buzzed late at night, I glanced over and saw a message in Korean pop up. Miss you already. Can't wait for next time. He snatched it away before I could ask, muttering about a client mix-up. I wanted to believe him. Desperately. After all, I'd invested everything in this marriage. My graphic design dreams, shelf, friends, drifted away as I focused on family. Even my inheritance from my parents, a modest $300,000 nest egg I'd tucked away for the kids' futures, was now joint, merged into our accounts at Robert's insistence. It's safer that way, honey, he'd said. We're a team. If you're still with me, comment red flag below if you've ever ignored those little warning signs in a relationship. It helps to know I'm not alone in that. The invitation to the business dinner came out of the blue about 6 months ago. Robert had just returned from another trip to Seoul. His suitcase still unpacked in the hallway. We were sitting at the kitchen table, me nursing a cup of tea while he scrolled through emails. Vicky, he said casually, not looking up, I need you to join me for dinner next Friday. Big client from Korea, Mr. Kim. He's flying in to finalize a deal, and he insists on meeting the family behind the man. I blinked, surprised. In all our years, Robert had never invited me to a business event. Me. Are you sure? I don't know anything about your deals. He smiled, that charming grin that used to melt me. That's the point. You're my secret weapon. Beautiful, gracious, the perfect hostess. Just smile and nod. It'll seal the partnership. I felt a flutter of excitement mixed with unease. Part of me was thrilled to be included, to glimpse the world he'd built without me. But another part wondered why now? Why this client? Still, I pushed the doubts aside and agreed. I spent the week preparing, buying a new dress, an elegant black number that hugged my curves without trying too hard, and practicing my small talk. Little did I know, that dinner would be the spark that ignited the firestorm. The restaurant was upscale, one of those fusion places downtown with dim lighting, silk tablecloths, and waiters who whispered the specials like secrets. Mr. Kim arrived first, a sharp-dressed man in his late 50s with salt and pepper hair and a firm handshake. He bowed slightly when Robert introduced me. His English polished but accented. Mrs. Wilson, a pleasure. Your husband speaks highly of you. I smiled warmly. Thank you, Mr. Kim. The pleasure's mine. We settled into our seats, ordering appetizers, crispy dumplings and chilled sake. The conversation started in English, light and professional. The weather in Seoul, the latest tech trends, the potential for Robert's firm to expand distribution in the U.S. I nodded along, contributing just enough to seem engaged without dominating. But as the main courses arrived, steaming bowls of bibimbap and grilled bulgogi, the talk shifted. Mr. Kim glanced at me, then at Robert, and switched to Korean, assuming I wouldn't understand. And here's the thing they didn't know. I did understand. Fluently, in fact. It was my little secret, born from years of curiosity about Robert's travels. About a decade ago, when the kids were teenagers and the house felt empty during his trips, I started learning Korean online. At first, it was just a hobby, watching K-dramas to pass the time, picking up phrases here and there. But I dove deeper, taking virtual classes, practicing with apps until I could hold conversations. I never told Robert. It felt like my private world, a piece of independence in a life devoted to him. I'd surprise him one day, I thought, maybe on a trip to Korea together. But that day never came, and the secret stayed mine. So, as they spoke in Korean, I kept my face neutral, pretending to focus on my food. At first, it was banal. Details about shipping logistics, profit margins, a minor delay in production. Robert laughed at something Mr. Kim said, clapping him on the shoulder like old friends. But then the tone shifted. Mr. Kim leaned in, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. So, about the other matter. The personal one. Have you made progress? Robert nodded, glancing at me briefly before responding in Korean. Yes, it's all set. The papers are ready. Once she's out of the picture, the money's all ours. We'll make it look like an accident. Maybe a car crash on her way home from book club. Clean, no questions. My heart slammed against my ribs, the world tilting. I gripped my napkin under the table, nails digging into the fabric to keep from reacting. An accident. Out of the picture. The words echoed in my mind, cold and sharp like shards of ice. Mr. Kim chuckled softly. Smart. And the inheritance. It's joint, right? No loose ends with the kids. None, Robert replied. His voice steady, casual, as if discussing the weather. Emily and Michael will get a small cut to keep them quiet, but the bulk, the $300,000 from her parents plus our savings, goes to the new venture. And with her gone, no one contests it. I felt bile rise in my throat, the room's elegant hum fading to a distant buzz. My husband, the man I'd loved for a quarter century, was plotting my murder. For money. For some new venture. But why? And who was this ours he mentioned? Was there someone else? The questions swirled, each one a dagger twisting deeper. I forced a smile as the waiter refilled my water, murmuring thank you in English. Inside, rage and terror warred for dominance. How long had this been brewing? Those distant looks, the secret of phone calls, it all clicked into place. But I couldn't confront him here, not yet. I needed proof, a plan. As they switched back to English, toasting the deal, I played along, my mind racing ahead to the nightmare unfolding. Little did I know that was just the tip of the iceberg. The real horrors were still to come. And when I uncovered them, the revenge I exacted would make headlines. If this is hitting close to home, comment shocked below. Your support keeps me going as I share the rest. I don't remember how I got through the rest of that dinner. I must have laughed at the right moments, raised my glass when they toasted, even managed to compliment Mr. Kim's wife on the handbag she'd bought in Myeongdong. My face was a mask. Inside, I was screaming so loudly I was sure the crystal glasses would shatter. Robert paid the bill with the black Amex I'd never seen before, another red flag I filed away, and we walked out into the crisp Chicago night. The valet brought our car around. Robert opened the passenger door for me like the perfect gentleman he'd always pretended to be. Enjoy yourself, honey, he asked, sliding behind the wheel. I turned to him with the warmest smile I could manufacture. It was wonderful. Mr. Kim is lovely. You're lucky to have such a partner. He reached over and squeezed my knee, exactly the way he used to when we were young and in love. His hand felt like a snake on my skin. On the drive home I kept my voice light. You two switched to Korean for a while. I hope I wasn't boring you. He chuckled. Just shop talk, babe. You know, shipping schedules, tariffs. Nothing you'd care about. I nodded, staring out the window at the city lights streaking past. Nothing I'd care about. Planning my murder was just shop talk. That night, he fell asleep in minutes, snoring softly beside me like any other night for the last 25 years. I lay awake until the clock glowed 3:17 a.m., every nerve on fire. Then I slipped out of bed, padded barefoot to his study, and started looking for proof. I knew his habits. The bottom drawer of the antique oak desk had a false bottom. He'd shown it to me years ago when he hid my birthday necklace there. I pried it open with a letter opener. Inside, a second passport in the name Robert James Park, his mother's maiden name, a burner phone, and a flash drive labeled K Project. My hand shook so badly I almost dropped everything. I took the burner and the drive to the guest bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the cold tile floor. The phone had only one contact saved. Hannah. The message thread went back 18 months. I opened the most recent exchange. Hannah, 3 days ago. Did you tell her about the dinner yet? I'm nervous, she suspects. Robert, relax, baby. She doesn't understand a word. Tonight sealed it. Kim is 100% in. Hannah, I can't wait to start our real life. I hate hiding Ji-ho from you. Robert, soon. Once the accident happens, we'll have everything. The money, the company, our son. I love you both so much. Our son. Oh, 18 months of messages. Photos. A little boy with Robert's eyes and a woman's delicate Korean features. Hannah's face appeared in selfies taken in hotel rooms I recognized from Robert's trips. Seoul, Busan, even Singapore. There were pictures of her pregnant, her belly round under a cherry blossom tree, Robert kissing it. One video, Robert holding a newborn whispering, "Daddy's here, little man. Daddy's going to fix everything." I pressed my fist to my mouth to keep from vomiting. It wasn't just murder. It was a whole second life. Secret family. My husband had a son he loved more than the 2 children we'd raised together. And they were planning to kill me for my parents' money, and the insurance payout Robert had quietly tripled last year, claiming it was for the kids' future. I sat there until dawn, tears running hot down my cheeks, memorizing every message, every photo. When the house began to stir, I slipped everything back exactly as I'd found it, crawled into bed, and pretended to be asleep when Robert kissed my forehead and left for his early meeting. That was the moment Vicky Wilson, the trusting, smiling, supportive wife, died. Someone colder was born in her place. Over the next 2 weeks, I became an actress worthy of an Oscar. I cooked Robert's favorite meals. I left little love notes in his suitcase. I even suggested we renew our vows for our 26th anniversary, to show the kids how strong we still are. He ate it up, hugging me tighter than he had in years, murmuring, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Vic." All the while, I was gathering evidence like a woman possessed. First, I cloned the burner phone using software I found on a dark web forum. Yes, 52-year-old suburban moms can learn things when their life depends on it. Every new message from Hannah pinged to an app on my own secret phone. Second, I hired a private investigator. Not some flashy TV detective. Marisol Vega, a quiet, no-nonsense former CPD officer who specialized in financial crimes and cheating spouses. I met her in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot at 6 a.m., handed her an envelope with $10,000 cash from the emergency fund Robert didn't know I still controlled, and said, "I need everything. And I need it fast." Third, I started documenting our finances. Robert had slowly moved assets into accounts I couldn't access. Offshore Cayman Islands, even a shell company in Seoul registered to Park and Kim Holdings. My inheritance. Already transferred. The life insurance beneficiary had been changed 6 months ago from me to a trust in Ji-ho Park's name. Marisol delivered her first report 10 days later. We met in the back of her minivan behind a grocery store. "Vicky," she said, sliding a thick folder across the seat, "I've been doing this 20 years, and this is one of the coldest setups I've ever seen." Inside, bank records showing $1.8 million funneled out of our accounts over 3 years. Photos of Robert and Hannah together. Dinners, hotels, a preschool drop-off for Ji-ho. Hannah's full identity. Hannah Park, née Lee, 34, former interpreter for Robert's company, now listed as executive assistant on the Seoul office payroll, at a salary triple the market rate. The kicker: a $5 million Keyman life insurance policy on me, taken out last year, payable to the offshore company if I died accidentally. Marisol looked at me with something close to pity. "They're not amateurs, Vicky. The accident was already in motion. Brake lines on your SUV were tampered with 2 weeks ago. I had a mechanic friend check. Another month, and you'd have gone off the road on one of those rainy nights you drive to book club." I stared at the photos of my husband kissing another woman, cradling a child he called son, and felt something inside me harden into steel. "What now?" I whispered. Marisol closed the folder. "We have 2 choices. We go to the police today. Insurance fraud, attempted murder, conspiracy. They'll arrest him. But he's got money and lawyers, and Korea doesn't extradite easily. He could run. Or we let him think the plan is still on track. We control the when, the where, and the audience. And when we drop the hammer, we drop it in front of as many people as possible, so he can never lie his way out." I didn't hesitate. "Option 2. She smiled for the first time. "That's what I was hoping you'd say." We spent the next month planning the single most elaborate public destruction Chicago had ever seen. The venue: the annual Wilson and Associates Holiday Gala. Black tie, 300 guests, held at the Drake Hotel's Gold Coast Room. Robert had bragged for weeks that Mr. Kim was flying in specially, and several Korean investors would be attending. It was the perfect stage. I played my role flawlessly. I helped choose the menu, approved the string quartet, even suggested we show a heartfelt slideshow of our journey together at the end of Robert's keynote speech. He kissed me in front of the staff and said, "You're making this the best night of my life, sweetheart." If only he knew. Behind the scenes, Marisol and I built an ironclad case. Forensic accountant tracing every stolen dollar. A cooperating witness inside the sole office who'd been coerced into falsifying documents. Hidden cameras installed in our home, legal in Illinois for one-party consent. And the crown jewel, Mr. Kim himself, who, when confronted with a murder plot recorded on the cloned burner, agreed to wear a wire at the gala in exchange for immunity. The night before the event, I stood in front of the mirror in the master bathroom, applying lipstick with a steady hand. Robert came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist, and rested his chin on my shoulder. "You look stunning," he murmured. "Tomorrow night after my speech I have a surprise for you. Something that's going to change our lives." I met his eyes in the mirror and smiled the sweetest, deadliest smile of my life. "I can't wait, darling," I said. "Tomorrow night is going to change everything." He had no idea how right he was. If you're still here and your blood is boiling the way mine was, drop revenge in the comments right now. Because what happened at that gala? Well, let's just say the Drake Hotel has never recovered. And neither has Robert. December 14th. The Drake Hotel, Chicago. 7 p.m. I stepped out of the limo in a floor-length emerald gown that cost more than most people's rent. The paparazzi bulbs flashed. Local society pages loved Robert's rags to riches story. And tonight he was being honored as Chicago Business Council's Entrepreneur of the Year. I smiled, waved, let him kiss my cheek for the cameras. Inside, my pulse was 140 beats per minute and climbing. Marisol's voice whispered in my earpiece. "Hidden under my updo. Package is live. Projector feed is ours. Kim is wired. Police plainclothes in position. Say the word and we go." I answered with the tiniest nod. The Gold Coast room was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, gold draping, 300 of Chicago's elite sipping vintage champagne. A 10-foot screen behind the head table displayed a looping montage of Robert shaking hands in Seoul, Robert cutting ribbons, Robert with his arm around me at last year's gala, looking every inch the devoted husband. He took the stage at 8:45 to thunderous applause. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice warm and confident, "none of this would be possible without the love of my life, my rock, my beautiful wife Vicky." The room awed. Cameras turned to me. I stood, blew him a kiss, and felt acid in my throat. He launched into his speech. Growth numbers, new partnerships, a brighter future. At the 9-minute mark he clicked to the final slide. A photo of us on our 25th anniversary cruise. "And now," he beamed, "I have a very special surprise for the woman who made it all possible." The lights dimmed. The screen went black. Robert frowned, confused. "Tech, little glitch, folks, 1 second." That was my cue. I pressed the remote in my clutch. The screen exploded to life. Not with our anniversary photo. With a crystal-clear still of Robert and Hannah in bed, taken from the hidden camera I'd installed in our Seoul corporate apartment. The room gasped so loudly it sounded like wine through a tunnel. Robert's face drained of color. "Vicky, what the hell is this?" I walked slowly to the stage, heels clicking like gunshots on the marble. Every eye followed me. "Keep talking, darling," I said into the microphone he still clutched. "Tell them about your surprise." The next slide auto-advanced. A bank transfer. $1.8 million from Wilson & Associates to Park and Kim Holdings, Cayman Islands. Timestamp last month. Then another. The forged signature page moving my inheritance, my parents' life savings, into the offshore trust for Jiho Park Minor. The room was dead silent now. Slide. The $5 million life insurance policy on me. Beneficiary changed to the same trust. Slide. Close-up of my SUV's severed brake line. Mechanics report circled in red. And then the audio began. Robert's own voice, recorded by Mr. Kim's wire 2 nights ago in the men's room of this very hotel. After tonight she'll be celebrating too hard. One more drink, a slippery road home, and it's over. The policy pays double for accidental death. 10 million Kim. In. We disappear to Jeju with Hannah and the boy. New names, new life. Mr. Kim, standing at table 1 in his tuxedo, stood up slowly and spoke in perfect English. I agreed to the merger, Mr. Wilson. I never agreed to murder. A woman screamed. Phones came out. Someone dropped a champagne flute. It shattered like ice. Robert tried to laugh it off. This is a joke. Someone's hacked the system. Clicked again. Live feed. Right now. Our bedroom at home, where Marisol had left the hidden camera rolling. Robert's suitcase was open on the bed. Inside, a vial labeled Rohypnol, Soul Pharmacy, and a second passport in the name Robert James Park. The crowd recoiled as if I'd thrown snakes onto the tables. I turned to him, voice calm, lethal. 25 years, Robert. 25 years I cooked your meals, raised your children, waited up while you built your empire. And you were willing to kill me for $10 million, and a woman half my age who gave you the son you apparently always wanted. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. No sound came out. I raised my hand. 2 Chicago PD detectives in tuxedos stepped forward from the wings. Behind them, 4 uniformed officers. Robert James Wilson, the lead detective announced. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, embezzlement, and about 12 other felonies. We'll read you on the way downtown. He finally found his voice. Vicky, baby, please. We can fix this. It was just talk. I leaned in so only he could hear. You taught me Korean, remember? Every word was real. The officers grabbed his arms. He struggled, actually struggled, knocking over the Entrepreneur of the Year trophy. It clattered across the stage and broke in half. Perfect symbolism. As they cuffed him, I clicked one last time. The screen filled with a live video call. Hannah's face appeared, pale, terrified, in what looked like an interrogation room at O'Hare Customs. 2 federal agents flanked her. Mrs. Park, I said sweetly, say hello to your audience. She burst into tears. I never wanted her dead, I swear. He said it would be an accident, that no one would get hurt. The room erupted. Women were sobbing. Men were shouting. Someone threw a bread roll at Robert as the officers dragged him past the head table. He tripped on the carpet runner, actually fell to his knees in front of the entire ballroom, tuxedo pants ripping at the seam. Cameras flashed like lightning. That photo ran on every front page the next morning. Millionaire mogul brought to his knees, literally. I took the microphone one last time. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a change in ownership. As of 30 minutes ago, Wilson & Associates is now 100% owned by the Vicky Wilson Revocable Trust. Every stolen dollar is being clawed back. Every legitimate employee keeps their job. And every investor who believed in the lie Robert sold you will receive a full refund plus interest from his personal assets, which are now frozen. I looked straight at the cameras live streaming to the local news. And to the woman currently crying in federal custody. Enjoy your new life. Without my husband. Without my money. And without my son, because Ji-ho is coming to America next week. His real mother just signed away custody in exchange for a reduced sentence. He'll be raised by people who know the meaning of family. The ballroom was pandemonium. Cheers, gasps, people on their feet applauding like it was the Super Bowl. Robert screamed my name as they dragged him out. I didn't even turn around. Marisol appeared at my side, squeezing my hand. You okay? I exhaled for what felt like the first time in months. I'm free. The lights came up. The string quartet, bless them, struck up Sweet Caroline because they didn't know what else to play. Half the room started singing through their tears. I walked off that stage to a standing ovation that lasted 4 full minutes. If you're standing up right now clapping at your phone or your laptop, comment "Justice" in all caps. Because this is the part where the villain falls, and the woman everyone underestimated rises from the ashes. But the story isn't over. Stay with me. You won't believe what comes next. 6 months later, June. The house was quiet for the first time in decades. Emily and Michael had come home for a long weekend to celebrate my 53rd birthday. We grilled steaks on the patio, laughed until our sides hurt, and for a few hours I almost felt normal again. Robert was in federal custody awaiting trial, no bail. The judge called him a flight risk with unlimited resources and a second passport. Hannah had taken the plea. 5 years probation, full deportation after sentencing, and permanent loss of custody of Ji-ho. The boy, 4 years old, shy with Robert's stubborn cowlick, was now living with me. Yes, with me. I won't pretend it was noble from day one. The first night I saw him in the airport, clutching a stuffed dinosaur and looking for the daddy who'd vanished, something cracked open in my chest. He didn't choose his parents' sins. So I became his foster mother, then his legal guardian, and finally, after a mountain of paperwork, his adoptive mom. Emily and Michael call him their little brother now. He calls me Mommy Vicky, and every time he does, the knife in my heart twists a little less. Financially, I'm better off than I ever was with Robert. Every offshore account was seized. The embezzled $1.8 million came back, plus penalties. The insurance company paid out the original death benefit policy, the one Robert never got to collect, directly to me because I was, ironically, still alive. I sold Wilson and Associates to a reputable Korean-American firm for 8 figures. The beach house in Naples, Florida, is now in my name only. Life against all odds is peaceful. Then the letter came. Plain white envelope, no return address, postmarked from Statesville Correctional Center. Robert's prison. I almost threw it away unopened. Emily begged me not to read it. Michael said burn it. But curiosity, or maybe unfinished rage, won. Inside was a single sheet of prison stationery, written in Robert's neat architect handwriting. Vicky, I think about that night at the Drake every single day. The look on your face when the screen came on. I deserved it. Every second. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I lost the right to that the moment I let greed and cowardice win. There's something you need to know. Something I was too much of a coward to tell you even when I was planning the worst. Ji-ho isn't mine. Hannah lied. She needed a rich American to secure residency and money. The affair was real, the embezzlement was real, but the boy. DNA came back last month. He's not my son. He never was. I kept quiet because admitting it would have collapsed the only leverage I had left with her. I thought if I stayed Dad, maybe I could still control some part of the life I torched. I'm sorry doesn't begin to cover it. You gave me 25 years of loyalty, and I repaid you with betrayal on every level imaginable. Whatever you decide to do with this information, I'll understand. Robert. I read it 3 times in the kitchen, the paper shaking in my hands. Then I walked upstairs to Ji-ho's room. He was building a Lego spaceship, tongue sticking out in concentration. Hey buddy, I said softly. He looked up, eyes bright. Mommy Vicky. Look, it has rocket boosters. I knelt down, pulled him into my lap, and held him so tight he squeaked. Those boosters weren't the only thing carrying him now. They never were. I never told him about the letter. I shredded it, flushed the pieces, and that was the end of Robert's last lie. 2 years later, almost to the day I'm recording this, Emily got married on that Naples beach at sunset. Michael walked her down the aisle. Ji-ho, now 6 and fluent in English and Korean, carried the rings on a little velvet pillow, grinning ear to ear. I stood between my 3 children, because that's what they are, biology be damned, and watched the waves roll in. Robert took a plea. 18 years, no parole. Last I heard, he works in the prison laundry and eats alone. Hannah was deported. I don't know where she is. I don't care. And me. I started the graphic design studio I put on hold 30 years ago. It's small, it's mine, and it's thriving. The walls are covered in Ji-ho's artwork and photos of all 4 of us laughing. Sometimes people ask if I ever think about forgiving Robert. I think about the night he planned to kill me for money that turned out to belong to a child who wasn't even his. And I smile, the same calm, lethal smile I wore on that stage. Forgiveness. I gave him something better. I gave him the rest of his life to remember the exact moment he lost everything, and the woman he underestimated became the family he never deserved. If this story gave you chills, made you cry, or made you stand up and cheer, drop "Stay Strong" in the comments. Because if I can rise from that table in Chicago where my husband plotted my murder, so can you. And if you're going through your own betrayal right now, listen to me. You are not disposable. You are not replaceable. You are the storm they never saw coming. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If these stories of justice and second chances mean something to you, hit subscribe. I'm just getting started. See you in the next one.